It is time for Around the 412 with Smitty and Tyler.
Welcome back into another episode of Around the 412. I am Tyler. With me, as always, is my co-host Smitty. Be sure to follow us on all of our socials at Around the 412. Also, check us out on YouTube. If you're not watching the show there already, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss a video, never miss a short. Sometimes we go live. NFL Draft's coming up. We're less than 2 months away. We go live for the first round, at least, of the NFL Draft, and then some after that, and potentially day 2. So you never want to miss those. So hit the notification bell. You never miss it. Also follow us where you listen to the platform as well, like Apple, Spotify, those things. We're everywhere that you can find your podcast. So follow us, leave a 5-star review. It really helps us out a lot. And check out the description wherever you're listening. And you can see all the links to our great sponsors that you'll hear about throughout the show. Smitty, what did you call because you said there is no legal tampering period. By definition.
Oh, the contact period.
The contact period.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't help but get like a little uncomfortable by the contact period.
I get it.
Like I don't know if you've ever seen the meme. I'm sure you have. Or it's kind of like a little video. You ever seen a meme of like someone sitting on the toilet, going number 2, it drops in, and then like a little Poseidon of water comes up and like kisses. That's what I envisioned of contact period.
No, and how are you going to say that you got uncomfortable by me saying contact period just to throw that out there?
Because that's what it made me think of. Obviously, I'm making people uncomfortable listening to that. It made me uncomfortable hearing contact period.
Yeah, we can workshop the name, but like the point of it was legal tampering isn't a thing. Like that by definition cannot be a thing.
Like it
that implies also that. Yeah, and that also implies like there's a period that they have where it's illegal tampering as well. It's like it's stupid, but it's a thing, and people get very excited about it. It leads up to the official start of the new league year, obviously, which took place time of recording this today, 4 p.m. on Wednesday, where all these moves that were done in advance can then become official. We're still waiting for the Steelers outside ones. Really, yeah. I mean, depending on who's doing the physical. And things like that, I guess they could nix some deals, which, by the way, I mean, I guess we could touch on it. It's relevant to the Steelers because it's Baltimore. It's really shady business. And I really am curious as to how this is going to impact future deals with them. I don't think that like they're going to get completely shut out by the league or anything like that. That's not feasible to think. And I think at least in the short term, like long term, I don't think there's going to be ramifications here. Like when push comes to shove, teams are still going to do business with the Baltimore Ravens. What I will say is specifically the Raiders might not, and specifically clients of the same agent as Max Crosby may not. But I think there are going to be people that are put off by this, and I think rightfully so. This is bad business by the Baltimore Ravens. Like imagine if this was a team that wasn't the Raiders, that wasn't in the cap situation where they could reabsorb that contract. I mean, they went out, negotiated with a bunch of other free agents with the assumption that Max Crosby wasn't going to be there, and now they got to fit him back into their salary cap situation to start the new league year. It's just all around pretty bad business. So nothing legally or against the rules that they did. It's just they took advantage of the way that the system is set up where moves aren't made official yet, which is why, Allen's proposal was just like trade should be able to be processed by the league office at any time for this reason. Like you don't have this period where you got to put off everything until, in this case, the 11th to process the transaction. That way, this wouldn't have happened if that were the case, just frankly speaking. So don't like it from Baltimore's side. Again, they're within their legal rights, but I think it's certainly going to be frowned upon by a lot of people within the league.
Yeah, I think that majority of the NFL fan bases are looking at Baltimore like just with a sense of shadiness to the entire thing, especially signing Trey Hendrickson after that. I think that makes it look
who they
worse.
Were clearly negotiating with while Max Crosby was in their building. Like, I mean, there's no way they wouldn't. The timeline doesn't make sense. So,
yeah, I just think that makes the whole situation look worse. I don't think that there's any angle that you could look at, even though what they did is technically allowed. I don't think there's an angle where you could look at it and say that the Ravens were in the right for what they were doing. Like, if they want to say like they didn't know that he had an injury, like I saw people posting that like Max Crosby was posting videos of him in a hospital bed, like in January, getting surgery. So yeah, the whole thing is shady. It just, as a Steelers fan, it's just another reason to dunk on the Baltimore Ravens, and that makes me a little bit happy about it. But yeah, I don't love it. And I actually agree with Alan's take that you just mentioned. I don't see the reason why trades should be treated the same way as free agency signings should when it comes to the start of the new league year. Those I think should be able to be processed at any point, because I really don't see a reason why they shouldn't be.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyways, moving on to the Steelers side of things here. Let's talk about the subtractions first, or the ones that we at least know of so far. That is James Pierre going to the Minnesota Vikings and Kenneth Gainwell going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Two free agents that we said we would have liked to have had back, or at least been open to having back. That was a pretty short list in terms of guys that we were open to having back. I figured one of James Pierre or Asante Samuel Jr. were going to be back in the fold. And if you asked me to predict, I would have said the opposite of what actually happened. And also, like, for the contract that James Pierre got, good business, in my opinion, from the Minnesota Vikings. That's a really good deal, assuming that he plays even remotely close to the level that he did last year. Late bloomer, but man, like, he's a prototypical corner in terms of the size, like sticky as hell. Relatively good ball skills, gets his hands on a lot, whether it's players at the line of scrimmage or the ball. And like, at the very least, like, say that he doesn't fit their system for whatever reason, even though it is going into Brian Flores, which makes sense. Feel like there's a vindication there, if you will, about how good James Pierre played. If, you know, a guy like Brian Flores is coveting him. Gerald Alexander, secondary coach from last year, also went over there. So I think the fit makes a ton of sense. But at the very least, like, if for whatever reason it goes south, we know what he offers from a special teams perspective. So it's like pretty much a 0% chance that he brings zero to the table for them. And then Gainwell, man, good for him, but did not see $7 million per, well, maxing out at $7 million per. 2 years, $14 million, 10 of that guaranteed. I didn't see that happening, you know, especially we're going to talk about the running back that the Steelers brought in getting less than that. I wouldn't have figured that was going to happen on the market for him, but good for him. Replacing Rachaad White, I guess, within that offense. I think there are going to be some targets there for him. Obviously, were vacated by Mike Evans leaving Tampa Bay after 12 seasons, which doesn't relate to us necessarily, but still pretty crazy to talk about just from a league-wide perspective. They did bring Cade Otton back into the fold, but I think that there are quite a bit of touches to go around still there within that Tampa Bay offense. If I was Tampa Bay, I wouldn't be looking to take away from Bucky Irving's work, but just at least within that Rachaad White role, and maybe some, man, you can flex him out wide. So he could even potentially play some wide receiver for Tampa. I like the fit. So I'll be honest, I didn't hate the idea of him coming back. If it was like less than $5 million at 2 years, $14 million, I think I'm cool on that. Would have liked to have had Pierre back even at that number, but we'll talk about again who is replacing that. Totally cool with that contract as well. So best of luck to those guys. Wish them both the best.
Yeah, I'll quickly touch on Pierre. I think that the contract is great for Minnesota because it kind of gives them the luxury of having a potential starting corner that, like you said, at the very worst, he's going to contribute on special teams. That's kind of like what he was making a name for himself in Pittsburgh for a while because he wasn't seeing those defensive snaps. And whenever he got those defensive snaps in 2025 in stretches, he looked like the best corner on the team. So hopefully, like, he goes well in Minnesota. I'm happy for him. He's the like we talked about it a little bit last week. Like, out of the two, we would have liked to have seen Pierre come back to Pittsburgh, but I'm fine with Asante Samuel Jr. coming back, and with Pierre in Minnesota, hope everything goes well for him. But I think it's a good signing for Minnesota because at the worst, they're getting a depth corner that is going to contribute on special teams at a high level. So I think that even no matter what, they're getting something from him. And Gainwell, that was always going to be a tough pill to swallow, whether he was going to stay or leave, in my opinion, just because if he stayed, I think that while it wouldn't be necessarily a tough pill to swallow, there's always going to be a question until the season starts. Like, is he actually going to replicate what he did in 2025? Like, is he going to see those targets again? Is he going to push those numbers again like he did And I think that was always going to be in question. So seeing him leave, especially being the team MVP, we went back and looked several weeks ago that it has only happened once in Steeler history where the team MVP has not been on the team the following season. And I think, well, I don't even remember who it was, but it was back in like the 80s. I'm pretty sure it was like 89 is the last time that happened. But I mean, good for him. I think that he could do some good things down in Tampa. But I do say, and I know we're going to get to it, but the guy that they got in his stead makes me feel a lot better about losing him, because there was a lot of guys wanting Kenneth Gainwell back, a lot of fans wanting Kenneth Gainwell back. But the guy they got, I think that made me feel a lot better, because we touched on him, but being able to get Rico Dowdle in Pittsburgh and having him as a combination with Jaylen Warren, I think that is an instant replacement in a different way. Not the same type of back as Kenneth Gainwell, but such a quality back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, and a 1,000-yard season under Mike McCarthy just a couple of years ago. I didn't mean to jump right into the signings, but I figured
there's actually one more subtraction that we didn't talk about, and honestly, it's because I don't want to leave him out. Obviously, very quality player. It's just it never seemed like there was a shot of him coming back. I mean, for whatever reason, Isaac Seumalo going to the desert, which is like, I mean, we didn't necessarily bring up Arizona, but we probably should have, because that's just where Steelers go to retire. Like that's the last stop in their career before they call it quits. So Isaac Seumalo on a 3-year deal, not saying for sure that he's going to play out the entirety of that contract, but that's the part that got me, honestly. Like I didn't expect him to sign a 3-year contract there, but good for him, getting over $10 million per season. And we don't know what, like, they are in a weird spot as a franchise. Like Jacoby Brissett is the incumbent. They bring in Gardner Minshew. They've already named Jacoby Brissett the starter, basically. So I don't know what direction they're heading from the perspective of like where the franchise is. Kind of seems like a weird fit, but like, I mean, just in terms of like lifestyle and stuff like that, I think it's a perfect fit for Isaac.
Yeah, I agree. He's a noticeable loss just because he's been the starter for several years now at that left guard position. Do you think that they look to attack that via the draft or via free agency, bringing somebody in? Because that's somebody that I don't think that they have somebody in the room right now that they can just plug and play at that position.
I don't think I'd feel terrible about Spencer Anderson. Like, he's been a spot starter for them, especially if you bring in at least somebody that can compete for that spot. One signing that didn't happen yet, that was originally reported to have happened, was Brock Hoffman coming over from the Cowboys. Here's the reason why Jordan Schultz had to delete the tweet. It hasn't happened. So he's an RFA, wasn't a UFA, which means unlike the UFAs or pending UFAs, he couldn't negotiate with teams Monday and Tuesday because they had to officially like non-tender him and have the right of first refusal. So until 4 p.m. today,
so that's where the illegal tampering period was.
Yes. So Jordan Schultz deleted that tweet. That has not happened. Alan actually talked to Brock Hoffman's agent. It hasn't happened. Not saying that it won't happen, but didn't get the sense that like something was imminent either. This is a player that we've talked about. I threw his name out there as a possibility because he played under McCarthy and has the center guard versatility. I mean, something like that where it's maybe those two competing. I could see that. I've heard the name Chris Paul thrown out there, who was with Washington last year, had kind of like a breakout season, if you will, certainly his best season as a pro. Better pass protector, like one of the best pass protecting guards in football last year, but a pretty bad run blocker. But I think that makes sense for like the vision of this offense, to be honest with you, in terms of like the West Coast style at the very least. And with the resources they've put into the offensive line, and what I mean is the coaches, like not only do they have an offensive line coach and an assistant offensive line coach, their tight ends coach was an offensive line coach just last year. Their running back coach was an assistant offensive line coach last year. Those are guys that you hope should elevate the play despite the investment put into the players. So I would like to think, regardless of what it is, whether it is Hoffman and Spencer Anderson competing for that spot, maybe they spend a pick on it. Maybe it's early. Maybe it is Venga Ione, who's the best option available to them at 21. Who knows? Chris Paul, who's, again, has quite a bit of ways to go, in my opinion, as a run blocker. So I think all options, to be honest with you, are still on the table. I mean, that room's not going to go. They're going to add to it regardless. Like, even if Spence ends up winning that job, it'll be because they brought in somebody like Brock Hoffman and Spence beat him out.
Yeah, we got to get to an ad, so we'll come back. We'll
Yeah.
tell you about a little bit about game changers. We'll talk about some of the incoming free agents to the Steelers after that.
What's going on, everybody? Smitty from Around the 412 here. Got to take a quick second to tell you about our friends at Game Changers. That's their logo. This is one of their shirts. Best vintage t-shirts in the game. Doesn't matter if it's sports, music, movies. They got you covered with their designs. Over 5,000 different designs in that catalog over there. GameChanger.la or Pick6.la. You'll save yourself $10 when you use the code AT412 on your order. The link is below to both of those sites. Go check out their entire catalog. Again, 5,000 different designs. If you go with the black or the white, it'll be true to size. If you go with the pepper, which I'm wearing right now, or the ivory, they'll be a bit oversized. It's a heavyweight material. Beautiful stuff. Go check them out. And again, save yourself $10 using code AT412 at checkout. Probably best just to go in chronological order. So I mentioned one of James Pierre or Asante Samuel Jr. would be back to the fold. And we already talked about James Pierre signing with Minnesota. So guess which one happened? Asante Samuel Jr. re-signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. 1 year, $4 million. Nothing wrong with that. Completely fine business, in my opinion. Basically, like number 3 corner money, backup corner money. Be curious to see how he fits within this defense, especially with a signing that we'll talk about here in a little bit also be in there. But they were one of the few teams that were willing to clear him last year and let him get back into football. I think this makes a lot of sense just to sign back for hopefully a full season and then try to cash because he's still relatively young. So like play this year, hopefully stay fully healthy, try to cash in next offseason.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we talked about it last week with which one would you rather have? Probably Pierre overall, but I think that at the number that the Steelers got him back at, perfectly fine deal, especially with, like you were alluding to, someone else they brought in free agency at the cornerback spot. If he's your cornerback 3, I think that's perfectly fine. And seeing what they were able to do. Yeah, seeing what they're able to do with him in the back end and some of those like nickel and dime packages, I think it's perfectly fine. I think that's a fine signing for one of the guys that you had a free agent to bring back.
The one that I think is really interesting is Cole Holcomb. I did not see
that
this
one
one
surprised
coming.
Me.
Yeah, and so I was like, if they are going to bring back Holcomb, you think Malik Harrison's going to be on his way out? Like Holcomb, to his credit, I think took on a different role and embraced it. Like he became like a 3-phase special teamer last year, and I thought was pretty good at it by the end of the season. And I think still like a useful buck linebacker. But if you're bringing him back, like as of right now, if they didn't touch the linebacker room, they could just completely run that back with that from the coach to the players. The coach Scott McCurley was one of the few that stayed on staff because there was a relationship with McCarthy because McCurley came over from Dallas. Now, I don't necessarily think that that's going to happen, but Malik Harrison, as of right now on the roster, Patrick Queen, 1 year left on his deal. We can talk about him if you want as well and share your thoughts on something that's kind of been floated out there. But yeah, 2 years as well. So I think it's kind of like a safety blanket, if you will, being that they have 2 guys with just 1 year left in Harrison and Queen. You didn't necessarily see that second-year leap from Peyton Wilson, and he became a pretty good special teamer as well. I would have thought maybe, I mean, Carson Breen was so good at special teams last year. Maybe they don't even want to touch it, but I would have thought maybe try to get him more reps on defense, if anything else. But they like Cole. So yeah, Cole Holcomb back in the fold on a 2-year deal.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this one surprised me. I didn't think that he would be back, considering what the state of the linebacker room is, and the role that he was playing. Like he was a fine special teams guy, like very good guy in that phase, but defensively wasn't really contributing a ton compared to like what he was several years ago whenever he first.
Honestly, I think he should have been more though. I think a lot of situations they had Malik Harrison in down the stretch.
I agree with that. Well, and that's why I'm surprised by it, just considering how much he didn't play defensively, bringing him back for that. But I think it's fine. And that right now they're essentially rolling with the same linebacker room. And I know you were bringing up Patrick Queen with the thought about him, the Steelers moving on from him. Here's what I'll say about Queen. I don't think that he has, as far as the contract goes, because you look at his contract at his position, I feel like a lot of people would expect like Pro Bowl style of play from Patrick Queen. And while I don't think that he's played to that level, I don't think that he's been a bad linebacker whatsoever. And I think that he has been a very good player for the Steelers defense the last couple of seasons. And despite not necessarily living up to his cap number, I think that he's still a good player and has done some good things for the Steelers. He hasn't been a perfect player for them, but realistically, looking at the defense the last couple of years, there's not many players to have. But if they move on from him, I'm curious to see how they approach the draft and approach the rest of free agency, because there's some good linebackers in the draft that they could take, especially early on in the draft. They could take someone at 21 in the off-ball linebacker position. But I feel like that's something that we'll probably find out sooner than later, because you're going to want to prepare for those sort of things if you're the Steelers. But if
they're moving Queen, it's going to be by Friday because of the structure of his contract bonus. Yeah, okay. Like the number changes by about $3 million if it's before Friday and after Friday. So if they're going to move on from him, it's going to be by Friday.
Okay. Well, if you were the Steelers, would you move on from Queen and try to fill in somebody new, or would you keep him around? Because, like, for me, I think it's a tough spot. Like, do I think that he has lived up to the money value of what he's getting? Not necessarily, because, like I said, like, you're probably expecting like Pro Bowl level type of player from that. But I don't think that he's been a bad player either. I think it can be both, but I think it's the tough angle to look at.
Yeah, I said I think he's more important to this team than he is good. Not to say that he's necessarily been bad, but he hasn't played at the caliber that they're paying him to play at through the duration of his contract. And to be honest with you, I think a big part of that is his inability to be the green dot. I don't think he's great at getting the defense communicated. And I think that's why it works so well with Roquan, because he wasn't doing that task. So, like, if you had somebody else, if Peyton Wilson was able to take on that role, or they brought in somebody else that was able to take on that role, and Patrick Queen was able to kind of be like the Robin to the Batman, I think it would be completely fine. And he'd be kind of excelling, just be able to play free and be the sideline to sideline player, really good at blitzing as well. So I think he's still a useful player. I just don't think that it's going to be hard to get the value back on that contract. I also think it'd be hard to get the value back in a trade. Like, I don't think that they're getting back what would make sense to get back to then have a vacancy at that spot on this defense. Like, what was being floated out there, to my knowledge, was a 5th round pick was what they could get back for him. I mean, that's not helping them though. Like, I don't know what you're really doing with that, potentially even eating some of the money on the contract too. It's just, to me, not worth it. The best case scenario for me, and that's probably the least likely, is that he just plays out this year and then they go their separate ways, because I think it gives you time. You buy some time to be able to fill the vacancy. And you're also not committing to him. Like, I don't want to extend him, to be quite honest with you. I also don't want to not have him on the roster for nothing in 2026. Yeah. So he switched agencies, by the way. Like, he is looking for an extension, whether it's from the Steelers or somebody else. He's looking for an extension. They've talked to Dallas. They've talked to Philly. They talked to the Giants, who were also talking to the Bears about Edmonds before he got cut. And then they signed. So I think you could probably roll the Giants out. This is interesting. The Bucs went and got Alex Anzalone. At one point, the Steelers, and there would have been other pieces involved, I'm assuming. Don't know how it would have worked. The Steelers and Buccaneers, I was told, were working on a trade involving Patrick Queen and Chris Godwin.
Wow.
Which would be super interesting to see how that was the framework.
I would say, I'm assuming the Steelers trade that they did make pretty much rules that out at this point. But I wonder too, and you kind of touched on this, Peyton Wilson not taking the year 2 leap, I feel like makes this a harder decision for the Steelers. Because if he did take that year 2 leap where he got to that higher level of play, I think that it's an easier pill to swallow from moving on from a player like Patrick Queen. But I think that I like the way that you're phrasing it. Like, he's more important to the defense than he is good for the defense. Yeah. And I think part of that is because we didn't see that from Peyton Wilson in year 2.
One of the things they do have going for them, and you mentioned this, was like, in terms of the draft, it is a really good off-ball linebacker draft class. Like, they could definitely find somebody from a talent perspective, I think, to replace it. But there's just so much that goes into it. Like, from day one.
Are you expecting that guy to walk in and absolutely.
Well, so the one guy that comes to mind for me, and it probably have to be at pick 21, some people might consider to reach. I think he's one of the 32 best players, so I think he's a first rounder. CJ Allen's the one that comes to mind that would probably be the pick. And like the way that they talk about this guy, he was kind of calling his own shots out there. So I think from a communication aspect, like I think he'd be able to do it. But is it immediately? Because it would have to be immediately if you're talking about taking Patrick Queen off this roster. So, I mean, I can't say I'm necessarily 100% against it. I'm against it at the presumed return for what it would be.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Because say they do move on from Queen and take a guy like Allen. I have a hard time believing that it's not going to be Wilson and Holcomb, at least to start the year, as probably the two guys on the field with Allen and Bruner and Harrison.
I guess I just have so much faith in him. I think it might start out that way to like open up training camp. I think by the time we get to week 1, CJ Allen has supplanted Holcomb though. Like I just have so much faith in the player and like the way that people were talking about him at the combine. Like his defensive coaches were like, yeah, we would just like let him make the calls out there on the field with what he saw. Like, so his ability to break down the game. I just think that it takes a special type beyond talent, the above the neck part of the job. I think, and I'm not calling Patrick Queen stupid or anything like that. I'm just saying there's different aspects that go into being able to wear the green dot that I don't think he possesses for whatever reason. That I think CJ Allen, at least at collegiate level, showed that he could. So, and that was, to be honest, there was a bit of projection there with Queen being able to do it, right? Like, because it was Roquan, and it was just, okay, he'll come over here, and we're just going to assume that he's going to be able to do it. And he hasn't been able to. So I just think get him in a situation where he's able to play more free and use his physical traits that make him a good player would be beneficial. But I'm not doing it for like less than, I mean, no one's given up a 3rd round pick, but I would do it for a 3rd round pick because I think that's good value to me. And I feel fine about having to replace it.
You know this probably better. Yeah, you know this probably better than a lot of people do, but heck of a year to not be able to take an Ohio State linebacker.
Oh, man. I know. What would they have to do to get up there for Sonny Styles? No. Yeah, there's, I mean, it is. It's Ohio State guys aside, it's a ridiculous off-ball linebacker class. And I think what's weird though, what's kind of going, so I think it's going for them and how good of a class it is, but kind of going against them that like a lot of them are just within the picks between the ones that they have, you know? So like maybe a bit hard to justify CJ Allen at 21, but you know, he's not getting their 2nd round pick. And then like, is Rodriguez or Galladay worth their 2nd round pick, or are they in between their 2nd and 3rd? To be honest with you, I wouldn't have a problem if they took Rodriguez with their 2nd round pick, but that's just me.
Yeah. I wouldn't have minded. This is a free agent, but I wouldn't have minded if this would have been a sped up process if they brought in Leo Chenal. I know he went to the Commanders, but that's a guy million. That I don't know why he was sitting around, and I don't know why he got the contract that he did.
Yeah. To be honest, I even think like Devin Lloyd at 15, I thought he was getting more than that. For sure. Somebody floated out to me that idea of the Steelers moving on from Queen like early and going after Devin Lloyd in free agency. Which, you know, again, I thought he was going to get more than 15. I think I would have been okay with that. But there's also like, I mean, before 2025, it's not like he was being discussed as some, you know, superstar player either. So you're banking on him being more of what he was last year than the previous years.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
We have a bunch more moves to talk about, but first we'll tell you about Keats Barbershop. One thing we're not going to do, or shouldn't do with Patrick Queen, and that's cut him. What's going on, everybody? Smitty from around the 412 had to take a quick second to tell you about our friends at Keats Barbershop. That's Keats Barbershop, 401 Burkage Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Download the app, The Cut. Book an appointment with Christian today, or you can do a walk-in with Tony or Ashley. Again, download the app, The Cut. to book an appointment today, or they do take walk-ins as well. Could not imagine going anywhere else. Old school vibe in there. Check them out. Going along with moves here, man, that was where the Cole Holcomb conversation took us, huh? All the way there. So we didn't get too deep into this. Michael Pittman Jr. in a trade with the Colts. So the domino effect of Alec Pierce re-signing. We thought we could potentially go down this path where Pittman Jr. was available, but I thought he was basically cut. Like if you look what they got in return to get the 6th and 7th round pick swap from the Steelers to get Michael Pittman Jr. off the books, he was going to cost him $29 million, which couldn't happen with Alec Pierce re-signing for $29 million per season.
Mm-hmm.
So the Steelers are the beneficiaries. They pretty much get Michael Pittman Jr. for free, and they give him a new 3-year, $59 million extension to boot on top of that. Figured that a new contract was going to come into play there. I like this. I like this a lot. I understand he's not the same athlete, turns 29, I think, a few weeks in to the season. But this is a guy that's never really had to rely on that for his game. Matt Harmon, who I think does a great job for reception perception, puts out success by routes and routes run percentages here. And I'll share my screen here in a second for the YouTube viewers so you guys can see what I'm looking at here in regard to Michael Pittman Jr. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah. So,
subscribe,
what's that?
I said subscribe, by the way.
Sure. Yeah, do that.
You're watching on YouTube.
Yeah. So as you can see here, out corner 9. Those are the only things where he's not completely green in. Green would be, I believe, above 75% or above success rate. You're in the green. Anything lower than that, you're in the red. Most efficient, obviously, if you're looking at it here with me right now, slant, other than screen, but everybody's pretty much close to 100%. He's good in the intermediate game. He's really good on third downs. He's really good at understanding soft spots and zone coverage. So this is also percentage of routes. So as you can see, those ones that I mentioned at the beginning also doesn't run a whole heck of a lot. Runs a lot of digs, curls, flats, which makes sense when you think about the player. And I think the biggest part about this to me and why I like it more than anything else, I think people see 6'4", 225 plus pounds and just immediately think this is a replication of DK Metcalf, when that couldn't be further from the truth. Completely opposite in terms of what they bring to the table in their games. So while I think we've said this before when it comes to the Steelers adding wide receiver talent, they just need to add it. It really doesn't matter what type of receiver it is. This makes a lot of sense to me. And it now more narrows the archetype that we're looking for the other guy within the room. Honestly, DB's mentioned this. He thinks Pittman at this point should probably be more of a power slot. But okay, let's say he is the Z. Let's say he's at least the move guy on the other side of DK Metcalf. That more narrows it where you're talking about guys we talked about already in the draft class, Casey Concepcion, Omar Cooper, Mekhi Lemon if he were to fall. Those guys make way more sense now than a Denzel Boston for this offense. You got the other guy on the outside of DK. Now you're looking for the route runner, the separator on the inside.
Yeah, I agree. I love this trade. I think bringing in a guy like Michael Pittman Jr., like you said, is basically a cut from the Colts with the late pick swap. But I think that this does a lot for the Steelers in terms of the versatility of what Michael Pittman Jr. could bring. I mean, you saw that he is mostly efficient on most types of routes, according to those graphics. And I think that he's really good at finding just the soft spots of the defense and getting open. He's not necessarily going to win with his physicality like a DK Metcalf is going to. And he's, I wouldn't call him old, but he's older at the position at this point in his career, but he's still athletic enough to be able to be versatile. And like you said, he can be a power slot, but he also has the size to be able to be on the outside too. So I think that just from the offensive perspective from the Steelers, that just gives you more versatility, gives you options to look at adding to that wide receiver room when it comes to the draft. And like you said, now they can really kind of settle in and focus on if they want to take a Omar Cooper Jr. or a Casey Concepcion at 21 in the draft, they are perfectly capable of doing so. And some guys later as well in the draft. I mean, there's several wide receivers that they could look to, But I'm all for it. And like you said, at this point with the Steelers and the state of their wide receiver room going on several years now, just add talent and see where it sticks. See how the chips fall, because we have seen very limited talent from the Steelers wide receiver room for several years now. So being able to bring in a guy that has had success at the NFL and is going to be like a veteran leader in that room, I'm all for it.
Yeah, you know who makes sense? Calvin Austin III. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up right back here, to be honest with you. They could go still, like, honestly, before even get to the draft, I still think they're going to sign somebody else. Whether it's Calvin Austin III, I think Jalen Tolbert would still be in play. So actually, I would.
Why do I see people already acting like he's gone? Like he's not signed anywhere else, but like I see Steeler fans acting like Calvin Austin's like gone already. Like thanking him.
No, I think it's completely possible that, I mean, a lot of times when guys hit free agency, they don't, circle back. But I think he's such a unique case where, like, truly nobody really knew what his market was going to be. And we know how the Steelers operate. It's always with their free agents, go out and see what's on the market and then come back to us. They don't have to do that. That's a courtesy, I guess, on their part. But like Calvin has such a good relationship with them. That's 100% going to happen. So it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if he's back. And I think he makes sense with the way that they're built in the room. So
for sure.
Next would be Jamel Dean coming in. We mentioned James Pierre going to Minnesota. So we figured a corner was going to be on the way, even with Asante Samuel Jr. back in the fold. Thought that they would add somebody else coming over from Tampa Bay, where he was one of the best corners in football last year. Ridiculous numbers. I think what I like about it so much is, for a long time, we were kind of cutting the field in half with what our corners could do in their skill sets and the way that they had to play. Jamel Dean is very similar to Joey Porter Jr. with the way that he plays. So I think it now allows us to just say we can play the same type of defense on both sides of the field and have trust in both those guys. And there's some people that I think are a little bit skeptical about this. Like, he's about to hit that 30-year-old mark as a corner. Last year was like by far his best year. He's always had some injury concerns, at times too aggressive. There's going to be less on his plate though now. Like, he was operating basically as Tampa's number one corner. All respect to, Zion McCollum. Joey Porter Jr. very clearly the number one corner here. So it's a different task for him here, in my opinion. So I really like this deal at a shade over $12 million per on the AAV. I think it's perfectly fine. To be honest, less than I thought he was going to get based off the year that he was coming off of. So I'm a big fan of this, and I just think it's a great scheme fit. It's a great culture fit, and I'm excited.
Yeah, I like it. I think that it's a great fit for the Steelers defense. I think that he is very similar to what Joey Porter Jr. can bring. So like you're saying, they can have both sides of the defense playing in similar ways, which they haven't been able to do for a while. And I'm not really concerned about the age, to be honest. I mean, like, I would think back to a similar player, or not necessarily similar player in terms of style of play, but a similar player in terms of like where they're at in their career when they came to Pittsburgh, and like maybe having some injury history that people are questionable about. But like whenever Joe Hayden came to Pittsburgh, I'm sure that there were some question marks about that.
More Joe Hayden than Darius Slay.
Yeah. Be more Joe Hayden than Darius Slay for sure. But like I think that the age does not concern me. I mean, we've seen the Steelers find some success from these quote unquote older corners over some recent years. So I think that this is a great signing, and this is why I think that not bringing in James Pierre and keeping Asante Samuel as the corner is fine, because they brought in a guy like Jamel Dean as your corner two for sure. Like you were saying, like Joey Porter Jr. is definitely your corner one, and then whenever you have Brandon Echols and Asante Samuel Jr., like that top four, that sounds like a pretty good four to me to be rolling into the summer with.
Yeah, 100%. And they might not be done there. Like, that would not surprise me at all if they draft somebody relatively early, like day 2 pick certainly could make sense there. I mean, I guess I can't fully roll out the first round, but I wouldn't predict that. We'll see what the rest of free agency brings us here. But yeah, super high on the Jamel Dean signing. Was also super high in this one. Rico Dowdle. You brought his name up earlier, but we didn't fully talk about this. 1,300 yards in back-to-back seasons, one of only 11 backs to do it. When he's gotten the ball, both metaphorically and in reality, and been able to run with it and been the guy, he showed out. I think he is like a true number one. Curious to see the dynamic here with Jaylen Warren. And listen, I love everything Kenny Gainwell brought to the table. I think specifically, though, the reason that he had the numbers he did last year was out of necessity because of the way that the offense operated. 1-to-1, if you're asking me to pick one, I'm picking Rico Dowdle as the better player. And I think specifically within this offense, he's a much better fit for what they want to do. I think he's a better between the tackles runner. I think he's a better West Coast offense player. So I'm excited, super excited about this. Did I expect them to pour this type of like they're paying him more than Jaylen Warren? So I don't know that I necessarily predicted that to be the case. But I'm not mad about it because I think he's a great fit. Now they're going to have to figure out how the timeshare is going to work.
Yeah, I think that I touched on this a little bit earlier. I'm so excited whenever I saw that was the back that they were replacing Kenneth Gainwell with. And like I said, all the respect to Kenneth Gainwell in the world for what he did in 2025, team MVP. But I think that they upgraded at the position with this signing. I think that they brought in a real power back that you can run between the tackles with, something that the Steelers at times have struggled with, and for what they want to do with Mike McCarthy. And maybe that's why Rico Dowdle made a lot of sense and why he was the guy that got the contract that he did. Mike McCarthy played with him in 2024, so he knows what he's capable of doing. So I think it makes a ton of sense. I'm really excited to see what the running back is going to look like with those two guys, and then year two of Caleb Johnson as well. For a position where we were questioning where we were going to get the replacement of if Kenneth Gainwell were to leave, I think that we upgraded at the position.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just, again, we're not taking away from what Gainwell did last year specifically, and I still think could be a really good fit for what they want to do in Tampa. And heck, if Aaron's back, I mean, maybe the offense will look somewhat similar. I hope not. But I just think it was out of an abundance of necessity, the way that Gainwell, or the reason that Gainwell had the year that he did last year. One more minor one to bring up here before we take another break. Darnell Savage late last night brought in as well some safety depth around the. I mean, he's only guaranteed like $100,000. Like, this is somebody to come in and compete in camp to try to win a spot. As of right now, yeah, 100%. He's like the number 3 safety because there's nobody else there. But I wouldn't roll out another safety being signed to this roster. I know people were like shooting for the moon, hoping that it's Shaquan Brisker. I don't know that I necessarily see that. I'm looking for like more of like a ball hawk guy. Like Nick Scott is still out there. Geno Stone, shout out Newcastle, still out there as well. And he's already played for 2 teams in the AFC North. Why not make it 3? So I could potentially see that as well. And then I think that they will look to the draft certainly to add to that room. So Darnell Savage doesn't change anything about this to me. He hasn't been very good. Former first-round pick of the Green Bay Packers, hasn't really panned out in that way for him. He's been cut before. He's been traded before, been around the block. Completely fine to have him come in and compete, but not even a guarantee to me to be on this roster.
Yeah, he played in a total of 266 snaps between 3 teams last year on defense. 48 snaps for Buffalo, 48 for Jacksonville, and 170 for Washington. This is just a depth signing for competition in camp in my mind. I don't really think that this is actually going to come to be anything when it comes to time during the season, but I am curious to see where they continue to look at for that safety position. I just don't think it's going to be Darnell Savage. No offense to him, but like a guy that played on 3 teams in 2025 and didn't really have any contribution at a serious level in 2025. It doesn't really seem like that's something that is going to be the answer for the Steelers.
Yeah, we'll see what else they have in store in regard to that position and any others, to be honest with you. I do want to talk about at least one more thing here, and that's the elephant in the room. We talked about these additions. One spot that we have kind of been assuming who it's going to be, but still don't know for sure yet, and that's quarterback. So we'll come back. We'll talk about it. We'll put a bow on it. First, got to tell you about Shopkins. What's going on, everybody? Smitty from Around the 412 had to take a quick second tell you about our newest sponsor, Shopkins. A lot of people been asking me about Around the 412 merch. We got it. Down below is the link, shopkins.com. Save yourself $10 off a minimum purchase of $30, which is basically like you're just buying one t-shirt if you're over there right now. Orders of $75 or more also get free shipping. And while you're over there, don't just check out our Around the 412 stuff. Taylor's got Penguin stuff, Steelers stuff, Pirate stuff, a bunch of good stuff always coming out. Hoodies, I'm actually rocking mine right now. T-shirts, hats, stickers, flags. He's got a bunch of stuff, koozies going on over there right now. Go check all of it out. We appreciate the support that you guys have given us. We appreciate our guy Taylor. Go check it out, shopkins.com. All right. We finally got our wide receiver 2 in Michael Pittman Jr. And I don't see this situation playing out the way that it did last year once we acquired DK Metcalf, where we then traded the other receiver that is on the roster right now. So I feel pretty good about these being the top 2 guys. Who's going to be throwing them the ball? We've kind of just been assuming that it's going to be Aaron. We're in the free agency period right now. We are seeing some movement on these guys. Kyler Murray set to visit with the Vikings on Thursday. That's been the landing spot that everybody's kind of just been putting in pen for him. Although I did see somebody that covered him in Arizona, who was also the one to put out about the Minnesota visit and stuff like that, say like he's not just going to rush this, so doesn't expect him to sign tomorrow. He wants to talk to some teams, even if they have a starter in place already for 26 and feel like maybe he could be the starter in 27. I don't know. That felt very like Rams coded to me, but maybe not. Yeah, so I don't know if the Steelers even want to go down that path, but like we don't know if they can. We keep talking. It all comes back to Aaron Rodgers. What in the world's going on here? It was last week that he was on the Pat McAfee show. Said he hasn't made his mind up. There's not even a contract offer on the table from the team. I don't know. Like, are we just assuming that this is going to go down the same route that we did in 2025?
I really hope not. Not that I think that the draft has anything to do with a quarterback, but like if we're still at the draft, which is another month and a half away, and we're questioning whether Aaron Rodgers is going to be the quarterback in 2026, I think that's ridiculous. It's from the Steelers' perspective. Aaron, he can do whatever he wants. It's fine. It's annoying from him, especially if he does end up being the Steelers quarterback. That would be annoying to have to go through as a fan. I'm sure the team feels the same way. Ownership feels the same way. But man, if you're the Steelers, what are you doing? Like, why are you basically letting him dictate how you shape this quarterback search? And if you're putting all your eggs into Aaron Rodgers' basket, I get it, but make a deadline of some sort. Like I said, my deadline would have been today. As of today, the new NFL season starting, I would have wanted an answer. But it's come and gone, and we do not have an answer from Aaron Rodgers. It doesn't really seem like one is imminent from Aaron Rodgers, at least not like in a pressing matter. Don't think it's like going to be that soon. I just don't understand from the Steelers' perspective. And people can say like, oh, well, they feel good about Will Howard. I'm like, I even if that was true, even if they felt good about Will Howard, what else are they missing out on potentially in free agency just for depth of the position to be able to come in on if they're not bringing in Aaron Rodgers? I don't understand the process. I'm tired of the offseason feeling the same thing for the last several years. 2 years ago, we were waiting for Brandon Ayuk, something that never happened. Last year, we were waiting for Aaron Rodgers. It happened, but we waited all the way till June to figure out who our quarterback was going to be. We're in March now. The NFL season has officially started for 2026. I don't want to get into April and still be questioning who the quarterback is going to be. If Aaron's going to play, he should just say that he's going to play. Like, why play games with it? I blame, like I said, I blame Aaron from a certain degree, but honestly, I blame the Steelers a bit more for not actually putting a deadline on this.
They don't have to. Yeah, they're playing the game. Like, you don't even have to be involved. If they don't want to be. But like, that's clearly, I think, just speaks to they view him as the best option. So they're willing to wait around. If they put a deadline on it and turn him off, then they feel like, okay, we just pushed our best option out the door. And I don't know, maybe they don't view any of them as even like close in their eyes. I don't know how they think. All I can say is, if you remember last year, once Aaron got there, like there were quotes that were put out about this and everything. Once he actually showed up and got there for mini camp and stuff, he basically, I don't know that he apologized, but it was basically like, don't worry, guys, now I'm locked in, right? Which I think they were all like accepted and understood that he had to take his time and everything like that. I think at the same time, it'd be fair to question if they would feel that way again. You know, like, are we really going to do this again? I think that they were looking to, like, from a player's perspective, it wouldn't surprise me if the viewpoint was, we want to just have a full offseason knowing who the guy is. You know, like, to your point now, I understand Ayuk isn't the quarterback. Like, we knew Russ was going to be pretty early on, and obviously got the trade for Justin Fields as well. So, like, your quarterback room was in place that entire offseason. Still had something going on that you're waiting for. Now, back-to-back years at the most important position, you've just been kind of left in limbo. And I don't think that that's good from the vibes of the roster. Yeah, I mean, obviously last year went above expectation to me. Like, understand there's a bad taste in the mouth because of losing in the playoffs in the first round and how it happened again and everything like that. But they won the division. Like, that's not what I would have thought was going to be the outcome last year. So by all accounts, it was a success the first year of Aaron Rodgers. But if you want there to be a second year, let's just do it. And I get it. A lot to think about here. It's something that's tough to commit to. But man, I just, from a fan perspective and just from the outside looking in, it's getting old.
What? The Steelers lost their playoff games 2 months ago. He's had plenty of time to sit back and reflect if he wants to play football. That's why, like, if I was in the locker room, I would be frustrated about this. Like, just, you're going to play or you're not. I don't know why. Unless you were contemplating retirement last year and it took you that long to decide to play, fine. But you're not going to a new organization. You're not going to a new city. It'd be going back to the exact same place with not the same coach, but another familiar coach that you were with for a very, very long time in Green Bay. You won a Super Bowl together. You're very familiar with each other. Like, quit messing around. Like, make the decision. I don't, from Aaron Rodgers' perspective, I do not know what the decision is, like how big the decision actually is this year compared to last year.
Mm-hmm. And but for the reason that we were just talking about before, I mean, again, this to me is way more about the organization than it is about Aaron.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. It's frustrating from Aaron's perspective that he's just kind of like, but I said this last week. He's just like playing the game. And I get it. He's playing the game. It is what it is. The organization just should say, okay, you want to play the game? We will too. Sign somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. They're far more at fault. And again, like, what route would they go down? I don't know. I know it's been floated out there that Kirk Cousins is their plan B. It's also been floated out there that they would just roll with what's in-house. I have a hard time believing that.
I'll say, well, Smitty, don't you know that they love Will Howard?
There is not an organization that is going to start a 6th round pseudo rookie after hiring Mike McCarthy to, like, if they were starting over completely, right? Like, if they would have gotten a Shola, Shieldhouse, somebody like that, maybe I could buy into the idea that would be a route that they were willing to go down. Just, there's no thought in my mind that would be something that they would do. Like, I don't know what would have to happen. What would be super interesting is Aaron retires. Kirk goes to Vegas, which has been floated out there to be the mentor for Mendoza. Kyler obviously goes to Minnesota in this situation. Then what do they do?
2 a time, baby.
I assume he's going to be officially in Atlanta in the very near future.
Trade for Mac Jones.
Oh, I don't know what the actual price is going to be. I mean, it's been floated out there. It's astronomically, that was the word used, high of a price tag. Gino's back in New York.
Maybe they do roll with Will Howard. You know? Last time, 6th round rookie comes in.
I mean, would Howard start over Mason?
No. I don't think
think so either.
I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I don't think so.
I don't think he would start. At some point during the year, would they eventually get a look at him? Potentially.
Could you see it like? I think that you could see a similar scenario play out to 2022. You start with Mr. Trubisky, and then see how long you make it into the season before you move to Kenny Pickett. You can see a similar thing with Mason Rudolph and Will Howard, but
is Mason going to get into a fist fight with a teammate at halftime of a game?
That's true. I don't know.
I mean, that's the only reason Kenny got in as early as he did, basically.
I don't know. Is a teammate going to hit him with a helmet, though? That's the question. You know, for the disdain that the city of Pittsburgh and a lot of the fan base has for Tom Brady, the amount of people that compare Will Howard to Tom Brady's situation is astronomical. It's mind-blowing to me. Like, everybody's so quick to say, like, what could be with Will Howard? Look at Tom Brady.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, like, I think Will Howard has a pretty good chance of being one of the better 6th round QBs of all time. The thing is, even like the 5th best is just like Jeff Driscoll, like somebody that just survives as a backup in the league for a little bit. Like the 2nd best of all time is like Mark Bulger from the 6th round. Like it's bad.
Tom Brady, obviously, Matt Hasselbeck, Mark Bulger, Mark Ripien, 2-time Pro Bowler, MVP of Super Bowl 24.
Tyrod Taylor, I believe, was 6th.
Tyrod Taylor, yeah. Derek Anderson.
Yeah. Okay, that's like the top 5 right there. So
yeah,
there's not a very high bar to clear for him to be one of the better 6th round QBs of all time. He just has to be like a backup, which I think is what the hope is for him, and I think very attainable. All right, yeah, I don't have much else to say on that matter, or anything else. I don't think. We'll see. I don't have expectations. I don't even think like I would like to say by the time that we talk next week, I think we'll know. I don't think we will.
I'd like to say by the time we're in April that we'll know. I don't think we will.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We still.
I'm shooting for the draft. Like I'm really hope. Not that the draft has anything to do with it. Like they're not taking a quarterback, but I really hope by the draft we know who the quarterback is for 2026.
They might. We'll see how it plays out. But yeah, we've told you about 3 of the 4 sponsors so far. Right above Tyler right now is the one that we have not yet. That's Marcelo Electric. What's going on, everybody? Smitty from Around the 412 here. Had to take a quick second to tell you about Marcelo Electric, serving Beaver, Allegheny, Lawrence, and Butler County. Whether it's residential, commercial, or service calls, our boy Brandon Marcelo's got you covered. 724-614-0611. Again, that's Marcelo Electric, 724-614-0611. The link below in the description takes you to his Facebook page. All his contact information is there, as well as a lot of the projects that he's been working on. Does great work. Couldn't recommend him enough. Sure, there'll be a lot more Steelers-wise that happens in the next week. It's just I don't expect anything on the Aaron Rodgers front. That's my prediction. We'll have content still anytime that one of those do happen. As you guys saw, was posting shorts about it. Even put out a little YouTube video combined because the shorts were not short enough. I had to combine them to make an actual YouTube video to put out talking about their contact period. Oh, that sounds even worse, actually. Signings. So, yeah, we'll keep you guys up to date. So stay right here. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell here on YouTube. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from, we're also there. Just search Around the 412. If it's on Spotify, you can also comment on the individual episodes, leave us a comment or question over there. We'll get to it on an episode. And then, whether you're watching or listening, links to all of our great sponsors that we talked about throughout the show are right there as well. Hit us up on all the socials at Around the 412. You can find Tyler everywhere, Weiler_Teeks33, and you can find me everywhere right there at Around the 412. It's typically me. Tyler does chime in every now and then. If you don't get enough of me over here, you can find me Steelers Afternoon Drive Monday through Friday as well. Socials are the same other than on Twitter where it's Steelers_AD. For Tyler and myself, we appreciate you tuning into another Around the 412 Steelers show, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.